Chip. Come on up, brother.
Oh boy. Hi, my name is Schramm. Pastor and I have talked about my struggles several times, but recently he asked me, dude, I'd like to give you testimony. I want you to share your struggle, if you're comfortable with it. Well, I'm terrified. Not because of the crowd, but because my family's here. And the last thing I want to do is to hurt the people I love the most. I used to blame them for everything that went wrong in my life, and I stopped doing that a long time ago, and I love my dad very much. But here I go. I was going to do what I do best and focus on my problems, but Pastor said to do it on Thanksgiving. No stress. So when you see what I've survived and even prospered through, you'll understand what I have to be thankful for. But let's take this in chronological order, a guaranteed 20 minutes or less. I'm the youngest of four and was born 4 pounds, 10 ounces. 7 weeks premature. My medical records say, at birth, the doctors noticed me squinting with severe muscle spasms. Now, as a toddler, some people would say, too young to remember this, I heard yelling, and I got out of my crib again, went into my parents' room, and was about to give the back of my dad's knee a big hug when I saw my mom get shoved real hard. And I heard, I don't see why you kept him. I don't see why you didn't abort the little... It was the swear word that told me what was meant. I wasn't wanted. I assumed I wasn't even loved. But despite that incorrect assumption, I turned out to be an annoyingly happy, loving, hug every stranger, skip everywhere little boy, the one you want to hit. God also preserved me. I would have been aborted if my mother hadn't been a die-hard Catholic. I'm standing here today only by the grace of God. And for a long time, I didn't forgive God for that. I assumed, as a Christian, that he left me here on earth so he'd have someone to play with. Kind of like a sociopath. Now, I had 3 issues growing up. Judy, Greg, and Christina. Lazy eye, so I have no depth perception. Muscle spasms that can make my legs lock up so I fall backwards, stiff as a board. It's called congenital myotonia. And ADD, or as everybody assumed, why don't you focus? From preschool on, these 3 problems caused me one major problem: bullies. I always assumed this year I can be different. This year I won't have any bullies, everything will work out right. I was wrong every year. Preschool through senior year of college, I had some form of bullies. But I almost always had hope. You could never completely take that away from me. At 7, I learned the beach is not always a time of fun when you're as oversensitive as I am. We were packing up to go home. I needed to go to the bathroom. So I told them where I was going, and Mom said, hold it, wait, we're packing up. Just wait a minute, we'll go with you. And I just said, I'll be right back, ignored everything and left. A few minutes later, I got back, couldn't find our blankets, so I asked the lady next to us, and she said, oh, they left. So I ran to the parking lot and realized, with no sense of direction, I hadn't bothered getting the landmarks to the car. So I found myself realizing that I was just a tiny little kid in the whole big world, and it was all my fault. I should have gotten landmarks. I can never let myself be that careless again. I have to be more perfect. That's when I started struggling with OCD. I lost a lot of trust that day, and that's something I still deal with. But as a child, I broke down and cried, holding on to a nearby wooden post. I looked up when I heard a familiar click. It was Dad's camera. They were hiding in the tall grass on a nearby sand dune, so that I'd think I'd been left behind. It was a joke. I was angry, I was scared, I was confused, and I still can't remember when they told me that they were hiding. It was too painful for my mind back then. But today, I've chosen to trust God, to give him my whole trust, everything I have. He's proven to me that I can trust him. And every time my mind raises doubts, I remind it we can trust. But jumping ahead to age 11, Dad would come home for work for lunch on Saturday, and Mom would make him a sandwich. Today, Judy asked if she could. And when Dad saw that it wasn't made right, he got upset, said a hurtful word, didn't know that Judy was the one who made it, and she ran to her room crying. Mom lost her temper. We heard every bad word we'd ever heard very quickly. And then we saw a lot of sharp and breakable objects being thrown that way. And it ended with something we'd never heard before. Pack your things, we're leaving. That day, everything except me changed. I was terrified. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I was clinging to my mother emotionally, not letting myself face anything that was going on. I was living in denial. I didn't know that I had chosen a substitute for God. He couldn't get into my heart. I made sure something was in the way. We stayed with Grandmom Battistelli for 2 weeks before Dad willingly left the house so that we could come back to our hometown and back to our schools. Thank you, Dad. Mom, on a waitress's salary, couldn't make ends meet. We were always just one step away from the poorhouse, and never had quite enough food. And I never consciously noticed, again, still living in denial. I was blind to everything. I had my mom, I didn't need God. 9 months later, all that changed. Mom couldn't handle the stress of being a single parent and with all this, everything going on. So she called Dad up. Bob, if you want to handle this, come over, come get the kids. In the hour it took Mom to pack 1 carload worth of stuff, everything changed. I lost my trust in the world, my faith, my trust in everything. My life fell apart. The person I'd chosen as my focus was gone. I didn't have her. I didn't have God. I was truly empty. Dad took over. As Mom looked back while walking to her car, about to be homeless by choice, that image was burned into my mind. And I remember thinking, I can never trust a woman again. But now, as she's gotten older and I've gotten a little wiser, I've been able to see her as the injured person, vastly overstressed that she was, dealing with stuff I couldn't understand back then. And now I'm glad to take care of my dad, to make sure his later years are a lot more pleasant than they could be. It's a gift from God to me. But back then at 11, all I could do was hold a kitchen knife and think what I learned on one TV show. 45-degree angle in, 45-degree angle up, fifth rib that takes it right to the heart. I wonder if it would hurt. It's supposed to be instantly fatal. But I couldn't do it. I was too scared of the half second of pain I was certain there would be. I just didn't have the strength. And I've been always told it's the coward's way out, and I was too scared to do that. But years later, I was told that I cried myself to sleep for weeks. I still can't remember it. It took decades just to dredge up that one memory that was burned in. Now, as I said, I'm the one who gladly takes care of Dad. My siblings have families of their own. Mom's living with Judy. And guess who she relies on to calm her down in some hard times? And for a little bit of scriptural teaching here and there. But back then in school, I'd already lost to every sort of bully you can imagine, from the ones that use hurtful words to hurtful fists. In the perceptually impaired class, I got teased for being dumb. I was on the outside of literally every social group in school. And even then, I didn't have the depression I needed to take the coward's way out. And it never left my mind as something that was still an option. But I'm still here, and I'm praising God. But then came junior high and puberty. Joy. And the jocks now had their own social group. And I couldn't be a part of that one either. The muscle stiffness, the eye problems, no depth perception. I wanted to be in every sport imaginable, but I don't have what it takes. Most people didn't like me because I was a know-it-all. The nerds, however, said I was too immature. Then I learned that I was on the outside of the biggest social group of all, one that nobody realizes there is. My first crush wasn't on the cheerleader, the girl in front of me, or Miss So-and-so who teaches English. It was a teacher. The problem is, he was married. I learned that day that I couldn't relax with the other guys and talk about girls because I'm gay. Now think of all the insults you've heard. Well, that's kind of queer, meaning strange. Or, oh, don't be gay. Or the ever so simple fag. As a Christian, when you see a couple guys holding hands walking down the street, do you look at them a little strange? Maybe pull the children a little closer? Well, I'm here to say there's a lot of Christian stereotypes, there's a lot of gay stereotypes, and despite what the news would have us believe, being a pedophile is not one of them. Kidding. But we do, even gay people have gay stereotypes that they live with. And they don't even realize it either. But back then, I didn't go to church. I didn't think I hated God. I was alienated from him, but I didn't hate him. I didn't see why I needed to go to church. Everybody in my family went, and they were hurtful. Everybody in church was boring, at least the one I went to. So God snuck into my life when I was 20. My sister Christina went to a holy roller church and tricked Dad and got Dad to go just once. he dragged me. I went to the altar just to get her shut up and just to please Chris. And still didn't know God. One preacher on the radio, I promised her I'd listen to her station, said, you can't go to heaven by pretending to be a Christian. And it's like a little light bulb went on. Oh, so I gave my life to God. And that really screwed up my life. As a young Christian, my sister Chris was only like 6 months in the church before me. A reserved one. They reflected their preachers' teachings and cursed sin everywhere. I left the toilet seat up once and got a 15-minute lecture on the ills of being lazy. I casually mentioned something nice I did in conversation as a point and was told, well, God won't bless that. He doesn't bless the sin of pride. It was actually worse than my childhood. I didn't think that was possible. The one thought, the one phrase that ran through my mind every day was, take the stick out, you'll walk better. I chose not to tell her that, not even once. I did not have that battle. Choose your battles wisely. Eventually I escaped and went to college. For 4 years I was free, and at a price of only $15,000. I considered that a bargain. Now in college, I can't go into all the ways I grew, spiritually, emotionally, physically. But I did learn a beautiful lesson. Senior year, I'd given myself over to lust again. And I was cursing myself when I swore. I could feel in the back of my mind this voice, exasperated, telling me, Eric, chill, I've got it. And it was, give or take, about 17 seconds that I could really feel that that person was irritated at me because he loved me that much, wanted only the best for me, and couldn't stand the fact that I hated myself. It was the best 17 seconds of my life up to that point. But since I went to a Christian college, I couldn't tell most of my teachers, most of the students, and most of my friends why that felt so good. That why I hated myself was because I'm gay and a Christian, and I didn't see that as being acceptable. My counselor and 4 friends knew my truth. That was it. Now my sister Chris and I have a very close relationship, and I sometimes get to remind her of biblical truths. But what is all this pain giving me that I can be thankful in and for that I haven't already mentioned? Well, he's giving me the grace right now to live with being gay and a Christian. I've stopped hating myself. See, the tension of being gay and Christian makes me want to reach out to that community. I see how much it hurts. The lies that they're told, just have sex, it'll be better. You can't be gay and Christian, they don't love you. And finally, there's proof about that. Dating websites have finally come out with the facts that only 1/10 of gay men sleep around. Not 90% of them. They're just as monogamous as we are. The pressure of trying to fit in with secular gay men drives me to try to get close to them, but now in a more reasoned way. I can do that and avoid sleeping with multiple partners. That is the unwarranted gay stereotype. Now, here in this church, and among my friends, God has put me into a safe place where I can be open about who I am with no fear of ostracism. I have a safety net, and that's something I rarely had before. Out of my pain, God has taught me to be more loving and compassionate. I was self-focused. I didn't have compassion for others because all I saw was my own problems. I only considered my own pain. Now that I have experienced all this pain, I have much more compassion for those in the midst of it, at least when I allow myself to. And when others see how much I've been hurt, how I've responded, both good and bad, it gives me an inroad, a chance to talk to them as one of them. Wow, you really do feel what I feel. You've been there. I can reach out to the emotionally wounded that have been beaten up by life and help them get the healing they need. The best lesson all this has taught me is that it's more important to work towards unity rather than push my beliefs down someone's throat to show I'm right. It's better to be unified as Christians than to simply prove I'm right, you're wrong. And I don't sound snide and sarcastic when I'm making friends, but the best thing that I've gotten from this is that I now know Jesus. He's helped me to find meaning in my life instead of just pain. Now, honestly, this has been the single hardest thing for me to do, not just in front of my church family, but my biological family. But I can rest in the knowledge that I do have all the acceptance I need. I have God, and He loves me completely. Thank you for giving me the chance to share this with you, and don't be afraid to hug me.